Good day, everyone. I am Rowena E. Medico, taking the Bachelor of Science in Mathematics. And today, I will discuss to you about the constructions. The title of this topic is Understanding Constructions, while the theme is Learning Constructions Related in Mathematics. There are three objectives of this topic. First is to demonstrate the congruent segments and congruent angles. And second is to understand the perpendicular bisector of line segments. And lastly is to have knowledge about constructing a bisector of angle and parallel lines. The geometric construction is the process of constructing a geometric figures using a geometric tools such as straightedge or ruler, a compass, and a pencil. So this is the purest form of geometric construction as no numbers are involved. The geometric tools such as compass is used to construct an arc and circles and mark off equal length, whereas the straightedge or ruler is used to draw the line segments and measure its lengths. Let's talk about congruent segments and congruent angles. What is congruent segments? The congruent line segments are one-dimensional geometrical figures having equal measures or lengths, and the word congruent is defined as the equality between the two line segments. The two lines are said to be congruent when they have the same length. On turning, flipping, or rotating the congruent segments, they still remain to be congruent. And the symbol used to depict the congruence between any other congruent line segments is this. Let's look this diagram showing the congruent line segment. Here, the line segment PQ is congruent to XY since the double vertical bars on each line segment PQ and XY depict their equality. And to understand more about congruent line segments, we will be looking into their properties. First property is reflexive property. It is based on the principle of comparing an object to itself. It states that the line segment is congruent to itself as the lengths remain the same. For example, line segment XY is equal to 5 cm. By reflexive property, XY is congruent to XY. The second property is symmetric property. It is based on the principle of if A is equals to B, then B is equals to A. It states that if a line segment is congruent to another line segment, then the second line segment is congruent to the first line segment. For example, in this diagram, by symmetric property, MN is congruent to EF, then EF is congruent to MN. The last property is transitive property. It is based on the principle of if A is equals to B and B is equals to C, then A is equals to C. It states that if a line segment is congruent to another line segment, then the second line segment is congruent to the third line segment, then the first line segment is congruent to the third line segment. So from the figure on the screen, we can see that AB is congruent to XY and XY is congruent to PQ. So by using transitive property, we can conclude that AB is congruent to PQ. So that's all about congruent segments, and now let's proceed to the congruent angles. What is congruent angles? Congruent angles are two or more angles that are identical to each other. Thus, the measures of these angles is equal to each other. The type of angles does not make any difference in the congruence of angles, which means they can be acute, obtuse, exterior, and interior angles. Let's look on the given figure on the screen. that angle ABC is congruent to angle PQR. When we talk about symbol, we know that the symbol of the congruence in geometry is like this. If angle A and angle B have the same measures, then they are said to be equal or congruent. That means angle A is congruent to angle B. So there are two rules in congruent angles. First is the only condition of two angles to be congruent is that the measures of angles are the same. Second is the length and direction of the two arms making up these congruent angles are irrelevant. How to construct a congruent angles? It is possible to construct an angle congruent to a given angles with the use of the compass and a ruler. Since I don't have any ruler, I will use the protractor instead. One of the easiest ways to construct a congruent angles is to draw two parallel lines and cut by a transversal line. So that is the two parallel lines. The first parallel line is angle EF and the second line is angle GH. And now we will draw the transversal line. The transversal line is angle RS. And then, we will put numbers in every angles. We will find the congruent angles. So the congruent pairs are angle 1 and angle 5, angle 2 and angle 6, angle 3 and angle 7, and lastly, angle 4 and angle 8. So that is the congruent angles for that figure. How to find congruent angles? So let us consider on the figure on the screen to find the congruent angles. Here, angle OCA and angle ODB have an equal measures of angles. So they are called congruent. What is perpendicular bisector? A perpendicular bisector is a line that bisects another line segment at a right triangle through its intersection point. Thus, we could say that the perpendicular bisector always divides the line segment through its midpoint. The term bisect itself means dividing equally or uniformly. How to construct a perpendicular bisector? Step 1. Draw a line segment PQ. Step 2. Adjust the compass with a length of a little more than half of the length of the PQ. Step 3. Place the compass pointer at point P and draw arcs above and below the line. Step 4. Keeping the same length in the compass, place the compass pointer at point Q. Similarly, draw two arcs above and below the line and keeping the compass pointer at Q. Step 5. Mark the points where the opposite arcs cross as X and Y. And step 6. Using a ruler, draw a line passing across the X and Y. Perpendicular bisector bisects PQ at a point of J. That is, the length PJ is equal to JQ, and the angle between the two lines is 90 degrees. What is bisector of an angle? The bisector of an angle or angle bisector is a ray that divides an angle into two parts. Every angle has angle bisector. It is also the line of symmetry between the two arms of an angle and the construction of which enables you to construct a smaller angles. So there are three properties of an bisector of an angle. First is all the points of an angle bisector are equidistant from the both arms of the angle. The second property is the angle bisector can be drawn to any angle such as acute, obtuse, or right angle. Third is the angle bisector of the triangle divides the opposite side in a ratio that is equal to the ratio of the other two sides. How to construct an angle bisector or bisector of an angle? You require a ruler and a compass to construct angles and their bisectors. Given a known or unknown angle PQR. And here's the steps to construct angle bisector. Step 1. Place the compass pointer at Q and make an arc that cuts the two arms of the angle at the different points. Step 2. From the point where the first arc cut the QP, make another arc towards the interior of the angle. Step 3. Without changing the radius on the compass, repeat the step 2 from the point where the first arc cut QR. Step 4. Using a ruler, draw a line from Q to the point where the arcs intersect. The line that was drawn through Q represents the angle bisector of angle PQR. Note, if an angle bisector bisects a line segment at 90 degrees, it is known as the perpendicular bisector on that line. Now let us proceed to the last topic of this lesson, which is all about the parallel lines. What is parallel lines? The parallel lines are the lines that do not meet or intersect to each other at any plane, and they are always parallel and they are at equidistant from each other. And we can also say that parallel lines meet at infinity. Two lines are said to be parallel when they do not meet at any point in a plane, lines which do not have any common intersection point and never cross paths to each other. And the symbol for showing parallel lines is like this. The two lines which are parallel are represented as the line AB is parallel to CD. Let's look on the figure that's shown on the screen. The line segments PQ and RS represents two parallel lines as they have no common intersection point in the given plane. How to construct a parallel lines. Step 1. Begin by drawing a line or ray or line segment horizontally on your paper. Draw points at each end of your line, and label the points of the lines anything you like. For our example, we will construct line LB, and then draw a single point above the line and some distance away, like 3 inches, and give it a label. We will call ours point U. Step 2. We will use our strategy to construct a transverse. Try to make it an angle not 90 degrees, and then label the intersection of the transverse, and we will call ours point E. Step 3. Use the compass to scribe an arc. Put the compass pointer at point E and scribe an arc that goes through the transverse line and horizontal line. And repeat it and put the compass pointer at point U. 4. Lift the compass and put the compass sharp point on the intersection of the first arc that we draw in the transverse. Step 5. Use your strategy to construct a line that passes through the original point above the first line and through the newly labeled point. In our example, we will use point J on the left and point B on the right. And now, let us proceed to the summary of this lesson. The geometric construction is the process of constructing a geometric figures using a geometric tools such as strategy or ruler, a compass, and a pencil. The congruent line segments are one-dimensional geometrical figures having equal measures or lengths. The symbol used to depict the congruence between any other congruent line segments is this reflexive property. It is based on the principle of comparing an object to itself. Symmetric property. It is based on the principle of if A is equals to B, then B is equals to A. Transitive property. It is based on the principle of if A is equals to B and B is equals to C, then A is equals to C. Congruent angles are two or more angles that are identical to each other. The only condition of two angles to be congruent is that the measures of angles are the same. Is the length and direction of the two arms making up these congruent angles are irrelevant. A perpendicular bisector is a line that bisects another line segment at a right triangle through its intersection point. The angle bisector can be drawn to any angle such as acute, obtuse, or right angle. All the points of an angle bisector are equidistant from the both arms of the angle. Two lines are said to be parallel when they do not meet at any point in a plane, lines which do not have any common intersection point and never cross paths to each other.